Well, hello everybody. I'm pushing buttons and having fun here. Welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. We have a full show today. One of our guests didn't make it, which is Steve Sparks. We'll bring him on next week. But today is kind of a neat day. We got Morgan from Goldshaw Farms, and we have small town tourist John Smith with us today, and um, uh, we're going to bring Steve Sparks on because he was an expert on pigs and stuff. So we heard that you're getting pigs, Morgan. So,
I already have pigs.
Whoa!
I just got them earlier this week, so
oh
they are here
wow,
on farm as we speak.
Awesome.
cool. So how many did you get?
I got three, so I ended up getting three Duroc pigs from a friend of mine who's a pig farmer,
Yeah.
and so yeah, they're set up in their hot wire training yard right now. I'll have them in there probably for another 2-3 weeks before
Yeah.
starting to migrate them through the woods.
So are they breeders or feeders?
They are feeders, so they are a short-term stay here. They, show up here at the end of April, and they will be gone by probably end of September, early October. I'm still nailing down my butcher date, but yeah.
Morgan, just a word of caution. The last time there were three little pigs, a big bad wolf came by and blew houses down. So be careful.
See, that stresses the importance of livestock guardian dogs right there.
Well, before we get started, I need to let everybody know that we are an audio podcast, so you can also get us on your favorite, whatever podcast software you're using. We're on platforms like crazy. Just type in Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. We have 75 episodes now, and check it out anytime. We're also on Rumble and on Twitch. And I also need to let a lot of my people know that Central Oregon Grown is going online probably within 2 weeks. Our delivery of USDA pork is coming in tomorrow, and so all we have to do is just configure our shopping carts and I've got a bunch of the web designers are all just saying, Rob, what are you doing? You need to fill out all these forms and stuff. But so those who have been waiting for to be able to buy pork from us, it will be available soon, and we'll be delivering within a 50-mile radius of our area. And then all the people that are on the show today, small town tourist, John Smith, and also Morgan from Goldshaw Farms. Their links to their channels are in the description below. So make sure and visit. If you haven't seen these guys' channels, they are amazing. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. So first of all, how I'll start with John. How's the weather down Arizona?
It's been pretty mild, and I don't think we've even hit the 100s yet. So to be the 20th of April, I think today was 82 degrees. So it's been very mild, but we'll take it. We'll take the spring as long as we can have it because the triple digits are just around the corner, and you know.
I heard that my daughter lives down there. Of course, that's where I'm from. I heard that you've actually had like a real mild spring. Like it's
Yeah.
been cloudy, rainy. It's
Very
like
cloudy, rainy, and wildflowers like I've never seen them before in the desert. Unbelievable
amazing.
this year. Yeah. So,
Neat.
yep.
And Morgan, are you still in the snow? Oh, we lost you.
Lost you.
Your voice. You got to pay that.
Oh,
that,
there we go. There we go. Sorry
microphone
about
bill.
that. Yeah, no. So all the snow is officially gone from the farm as of yesterday.
Oh,
Last week we had a really, really like exceptionally warm week where like the temps were like getting into the 70s in the afternoons, and so this week's still been pretty warm. Like it was, I think the high was like almost 60 today, and so it's yeah, we are in full on spring at this point. Like even past mud season, it feels like. I mean, we could get hit with a foot of snow again very soon, but even if it comes, it won't stay long like it usually does.
Yeah.
do you guys get real muddy in your like your working area?
Yeah, I mean it's funny. I was actually just putting together a picture for a video, and our pasture floods every spring with the snow melt. Like it's just part of what it's been. we had kind of a light snow and warm winter, and so there was not nearly as much water as there was last year, or even regularly in years past. But what that's meant is just that, you know, things dried out much quicker. I'll probably turn the cattle out to the pasture much quicker. Like, kind of all those things will happen because, yeah, it was a very mild winter. It was not a bad mud season, and now we're full on in spring.
No. Hey, Rev, glad you made it. He's
Yeah,
over by
I
you.
made it. What's going on, y'all?
So, Morgan, Rev actually is, well, he's on the east, he's in the east, but you're down in North Carolina. So we got people from all over. So John Pearson on the other side of you is in Western Oregon. So, and then we got Arizona represented here and two Central Oregons. So kind of all kinds of regions. It's kind of neat to kind of compare everything. And then we got Jack in the description. He's from California. And you're 68 down there, San Francisco. Yeah. So it sounds like weather's getting better for everybody.
Except
Morgan.
us.
Yeah.
I watch Morgan. I'm going, oh, he's going through the same thing we are, and now he's telling us he's getting all thawed out. We're freezing still. I mean, it's cold. I think it's people from the eastern Oregon. I mean, from Western Oregon. I think they're just sending all the crappy weather.
Yeah, we had snow
They're blaming it
yesterday.
on John Pearson.
Hey, I have not had a single apple blossom yet.
Wow.
Everything is still dormant.
Now,
Really?
you're familiar with Morgan's channel, aren't you, John?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you know he's really into trees. So you two have some things in common. So how many apple trees are you up to now? You're maintaining, John?
Oh, myself?
Yeah.
I have 50.
50?
It's very small. 50, yes. It's small, but I tell you what, each one of them this year got a haircut, and it took 10 times longer than it needed to because I was a little bit anal about it.
Yeah. Now, on your apple trees, did you have to start from the beginning, or were they kind of pre-planted for
No,
you?
no. I bought this property 4 years ago, and I've planted trees since I moved in, but I moved here 4 years ago. We're next to in our area there's a lot of filbert trees and stuff like that. And when we looked at this piece of property, when we looked at it to buy, I thought that the trees on the property were filberts. Everything was dormant, and right next to us we have filberts and everything. So, but once I found out they were apples, it's like, ooh, I think we ended up buying it then. I have the oldest trees on my property are the same age as me, 50 something.
Oh, ancient.
Yeah, they're old trees.
Hey, Morgan, I had a question. Can I ask Morgan a question? Because I'm fascinated by his channel.
It's a great channel.
It really is.
Channel.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I know that I was watching your latest video and you were talking about maybe people kind of giving you some backlash because you're a YouTuber with a farm instead of a farmer with a YouTube channel. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. My question to you is, how do you kind of push back on that? Or do you even let it bother you anymore at this point? Because the way I saw it was, what's the difference if you make money investing in Bitcoin or if you make money off of YouTube? What's the difference? You're a farmer with a side hustle. How do you kind of handle that?
Yeah, I mean, even that video that you're talking about was just kind of me trying to talk about getting good with that concept, because I mean, yeah, it chafes you when you get like those comments from folks where it's like, you're not really a farmer, all this sort of stuff. And at the same time, though, if you look at the United States, right, according to the USDA, 90% of farms in America generate the majority of their income from off-farm income. Mm-hmm. And so, to your point, like, what's the difference? Agritourism is one of the biggest drivers here, say in Vermont, for a lot of farms lately. I'd call this almost virtual agritourism in a way, where I'm bringing people onto my farm multiple times a week, or pretty much every day, essentially, with content. And so, yeah, I just kind of recognize that, hey, this is what works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm really happy with how things shook out, even though this was not how I planned for things to shake out. And yeah, just I enjoy both parts of what I do, both, you know, working on the farm, spending time with animals, doing the chores, as well as the projects. But then at the same time, I love the creative aspect of sitting down and making a video and building things out and telling a good story. And so I feel just like incredibly lucky that I can really blend both parts and both interests together in what I do to earn a living at this point.
Yeah.
Both of you two, small town in Oregon, also are both of you guys are really good storytellers.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that's important, right? I mean, that I would say that's what separates, you know, some YouTube channels from other YouTube channels is that ability to tell a story and to engage the audience and get them interested in coming back and that type of stuff. And now, Morgan, do you have a background in video and all that type of stuff?
I do actually. So like, you know, growing up, I was a kid who loved drawing comics, and so when it came time to go to college, I ended up going to art school, and while I was there, I actually studied animation of all things. And so when I got out of school, the only marketable skills I had was like, you know, I could, you know, edit videos and run a camera. And so when I first got out of college, I did that for a couple of years before, when I was like about 25 or so, I actually started working in-house at a big corporation and ultimately ended up in marketing, and that's kind of where my like professional career was. So from like mid 20s to really, I quit my job last year in January, and I've been doing this full time ever since. And so, yeah, I had sort of a background in like video a little bit, even though it goes back a ways, as well as a lot of background in like, you know, writing and marketing and a lot of that stuff. And so, yeah, those are the skills that I draw on when I make videos.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I don't know what like what your start was to get involved in farming. I'd like to ask all you guys that, to be honest with you. Like, what made you wake up one day and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna spend the rest of my life growing stuff and feeding stuff.
Drugs.
Lots and lots of drugs. Yeah.
Well, I'll do a short answer. Mine is I've always well, actually I used to raise turkeys and stuff when a long time ago, but I lived in the city then, and I could just do small little things and stuff. But I was always, it was kind of neat to go through the whole process, watch them grow, and then have this abundance of certain kind of meats and stuff. And so I've always been intrigued with it. So I did game bird farm for a while and things like that, and I just I can't say I feel like a farmer or want to be a farmer. I just kind of like the process, and I also enjoy the fact that I can control what I eat a little bit. So it's really been helpful. So that's how I kind of got started. Anybody else?
I liked making hard apple cider, and when I found out this piece of property was apples, it was like I had a place in Florence, which is on the very west coast of Oregon. Real nice little place. It was just an acre. It was nice. It had some apple trees on it, and the company I worked for, you know, we did a cidery in Eugene, Wildcraft Cider Works, and when this property came up, I go, because I enjoy making hard apple cider. And when this came up, but then I had all this, and it's not big. I've got 5 acres, but then I started thinking, man, there's a lot I can do here. The apples are established. It's a given. But there's a lot I can do here. And so that's when I thought, you know what, I got a few more in me. So that's when I started getting busy at the farming thing.
So, Rev, what got you started? That beautiful little place you have there in North Carolina.
What got us started? It wasn't to make money or to be a farm in the normal sense. It was more like a lifestyle thing. You know, we were tired of being on the beach, and we wanted something different. And we were always watching homesteading videos like Gold Shaw and Arms Family and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so we wanted to try something different. And I really didn't mind the fact that you would get food insurance on your way to that. You know what I mean? Like being more self-sufficient was really key. Not to be like a farm that generates money, more like a hobby. You know what I mean? But that's where it came from. It came from wanting something different and still being self-sufficient though. As well.
I'm not sure where it's coming from, but somebody's got a radio or a speaker up a little bit, and I'm getting a little echo.
Oh,
Yeah.
it might be the TV.
Oh, so, poor John. So her husband and is down sick, so he's off to the side dying.
Oh my Lord.
So, by the way, Rev, you
Yes, sir.
took lessons from the guy who runs Soda Lands or Soda Land?
Well, yeah, I went to one of his chicken processing clinics. Yeah, me and my wife did.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And Morgan, I think you know him, don't you?
Oh yeah, Jason. Yeah, Jason's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, great. Lorraine was great too. You know.
Yeah. No, yeah, they're super nice people. They are really awesome.
Yeah,
They're about 2 hours from me, something like that, I think.
Oh. And have you gotten your meat birds going? I can't remember.
The meat birds, I think, are coming this coming week.
So you're still last in line. You better catch up.
Don't worry about that.
What kind did you get?
I think
we do 25 at a time.
What kind did you get?
Oh, what kind? I'm sorry. The Freedom Ranger.
Oh,
Oh.
same as us.
So I'm actually doing a little meat bird experiment this year. I'm getting, because I know they've been all the rage with a lot of folks, the American breasts, and
Yes.
I'm getting, I think it's like 25 or 30 American breasts this summer, and I'm gonna raise them up and see how I like them, and I'll probably hang on to maybe a half a dozen females and a rooster and kind of send the rest of them off to the freezer. And if I really like them, kind of really focus in there, because I've just heard so many people say great things about them as dual purpose as well as just a meat bird. And so, yeah, I'm giving it a shot this year. I'm excited about that.
I think
one.
I'd like to try something next year for sure. But one thing I got to tell you, and I'm sure everybody's got the Red Rangers like we started with this year. I have never seen a bird eat so much. They're eating machines.
Are your crosses eating a lot, John?
What's that?
Are your crosses eating a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got 28, and they are probably, they're just turned 2 weeks old. They are at about 8 pounds a day. So
yeah.
But see, and this is where the trick is, right? Because I've been fascinated with like what's the best meat bird for a while, and like, you know, the Cornish cross makes sense in some ways, even though they're like those genetic freaks. It's 7-8 weeks that you have them, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty. The Red Rangers or Freedom Rangers or kind of whichever you go with, because they end up being like about like 16 weeks usually. What I prefer over them is just hatching out a lot of chickens in like barnyard mixes on the farm. And then essentially what I'll do is just cull most of the males. And every other year I do a big chicken hatch where I'm essentially replacing my layers. And so like that's going to be part of what I do this year. And so I'll be doing like a side-by-side comparison of the breasts versus just like barnyard mix and see kind of how much feed it costs versus how much meat I get and like kind of what that looks like, because I wonder with some of those birds like the Freedom Ranger where it's like, is it really worth it? I mean, I actually think it's a better tasting bird, but financially you're probably better off with the Cornish cross.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to compare notes as we get closer to processing, because we got John Pearson doing the Cornish, and then the rest of us are doing the Red Ranger. So, and then
hey, Bob, you give me one of yours, I'll give you one of mine. We'll see. It'll save you a lot of time.
Yep. And by the way, you have something in common with Morgan, is both of you guys are doing bees.
Nice.
Yeah. No,
Doing what?
How's your hives been doing, Morgan?
Oh, the bees.
So 2 did not make it, 1 did. And then, so I've got some replacements coming actually in a couple of weeks, and I'm trying a new hive out this year. So I got one of the flow hives. So usually I'm using kind of just a traditional Langstroth. But for this year, I'm going to try out the flow hive and see how I like that relative to the others and kind of see where it goes. I'm still this is only going to be my 3rd year of keeping bees. This is the first time I've even had them survive through the winter here,
Yeah.
which is always a little bit tricky
hear
because
that.
we have deep cold winters. And so it's hard. I mean, it's one of those things. I actually don't make a ton of videos about it because, number one, I'm just not that good. And like, I kind of like, I like to have at least certain hobbies where it's like I can just enjoy it. I'm not doing it at a commercial scale. This is more to help our trees as well as just, you know, have a little fun. And then it's also really hard to make bee videos because the gloves I have to wear make it hard to use a camera. Like, it's always chaos. Like, I can't pay attention. I mean, you know, I don't know about you guys, but like, I make all of my videos, just 99% of my videos are just me working the camera and doing everything. And it's hard to do stuff like have a beekeeper's costume on and actually shoot a video.
Yeah, you milking the cows was just great. I love that one.
Oh, thank you. That was a fun one to make.
That was funny.
So I was going to ask you, Morgan, a question about, I noticed you kind of doing something a little new on your channel where you're doing the farm stories, I guess you're calling them.
The farm crimes? Yep.
Yeah. So, in fact, I watched your one on maple syrup today. And so what motivated you to start kind of that new playlist kind of thing?
Well, you know, it's one of those things where as I think about the types of videos I want to make, I'm trying to like, you know, I like to just tell stories, right? And sometimes they're mine, sometimes they're others. I'm the type of person who will go down a researching rabbit hole. And so, you know, videos like that are fun where I can pick a topic, do a bunch of research on it, and then tell people the story of it. And so it was just in the name of, I worry that if I'm every single video, because I do, you know, 3 long videos a week, if every single one is just me doing my chores over and over and over again, it gets kind of boring. And so, you know, it was just meant to be a way to like keep it interesting for me as well as keep it interesting for people who are watching and really try to diversify just a little bit.
Yeah. So when you do a video like that, first of all, do you keep notes off to the side or do you have a prompter or anything like that?
I basically, so the way my process for like prepping for like that video, like in like the Oprah video that I did last week is a good example too, where it's like, I will go in and I will read a bunch of stuff and I'll basically take notes like I'm writing a term paper. I kind of organize them and put them all on just like index cards. It's like really, really low tech. And then I just keep a stack of index cards in my pocket as I'm going through it. And, you know, kind of as I'm telling the story, just checking my notes and like, oh, I got to get a number. Like, well, let's see, the value of maple syrup in Canada in 2012 was, you know, $1,800 per barrel. Okay, great. I can like, you know, because it's so hard to remember certain facts and figures like that. And so that's where like cheating with note cards helps because
do you find yourself doing a lot of retakes?
Not really. I mean, I don't ever usually use notes or outlines or anything when I'm shooting like a regular video. But for videos like that, where there's a lot of details and names and specifics, I just don't have a great memory for that. And so it's more joggers that way than joggers for the story. And so as long as I can like, you know, kind of cheat and go, that's typically what I'm doing. And then the other thing is I'm always moving the camera whenever I shoot a video, just because I think that actually helps like audience, like keeps it interesting and keeps people watching. And so every time I move the camera, I'm cheating, looking at my note, and now I'm on to the next thing. And it's more memory joggers than like a script for me to remember.
Yeah. By the way, I owe you an apology.
Oh, why's that?
I just realized, I don't know if you caught our latest video, but we lost one of our dogs, and we replaced it with a new dog. And Sherry's so that's kind of old news. We're moving on. We have a new dog coming on, and we named it. Sherry did, and I didn't even think about it. We named her Abby.
Oh,
I picked up on it immediately when I seen the video. I picked up on it. I was like, oh,
I mean, look, I mean, there's no. It's not like I was the first person to name their dog Abby before. So yeah, don't feel bashful.
I don't know what Sherry this looks like an Abby, and it's like, yeah, it is that's a great name for it. And
she does
with it, and I've got to thinking, wow, that's the name of your new youngest one. So, but it's a golden retriever, so it's a different kind of dog for sure. But
sure is
I know. By the way, if you guys have been watching Morgan's channel, you guys I actually have never seen that, but I've heard that they exist. You're having a barn built, and of course I might be out of time with your reality of when it's actually built and stuff, but because when your videos come out. But I noticed it was a kit kind of design that somebody basically almost makes it like a puzzle that they put together at your place, and so they don't actually build it from scratch there as they do assemble it, because it's already been assembled.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and it's not quite a kit feels inaccurate, because when I think of a kit, there's like lots of companies that do barn kits, right? And they're in the business of just manufacturing those kits. What this is I worked with a timber framer, and he and I worked together to design the barn. So it's custom built. It's exactly to the specifications and layout of the land and what I needed and what I want to try to do with it. What he then did is, over the course of the winter, he took all the lumber and made all the cuts at his shop, just because, number one, here in Vermont, we have these like dead months where you just can't work outside. So, working in his shop gives him something to do over the course of the winter. And then number two, he's got all the tools and everything he needs in his shop. And so he's just much more efficient and effective in cutting all the pieces and doing all the cuts in his shop. But then basically, once the snow started to melt in March, he brought all that, lumber that he had cut down to my place, and like basically put the pieces together. And then, that happened for like 2 weeks. And then basically a crane showed up, and using the crane, he and his crew were able to like basically go from having nothing on the ground to the entire frame assembled. And so it was like amazing to go like in the span of 36 hours to like, all right, there's the barn. It's right there. And so that's how it was built. And so that's the value. Like, if you can find a really good, like, skilled timber framer, it's incredible the way they work in terms of the precision, how each piece fits together, and just the craftsmanship that comes out of it. And so that's what Justin, who's the guy who's doing it for me, has been doing. It's amazing.
Do you use the same company to do everything to that barn? So as far as the framing, the framing and the outside, everything's done by the same company?
Yeah. So guy Justin Hepburn, Timeless Timber Home is his thing. He's in Vermont. So if you're not in Vermont, it's going to be worthless to you. But he has been doing everything for me. He designed it, essentially in SketchUp, and basically kind of figured out each piece of wood in SketchUp. He built all of the pieces, and now he's got about 5 guys working with him are putting it all together. I had somebody else doing like the earthworks and like the ground prep, and I have like an electrician who's going to come in over the summer kind of to do the second part of it. But Justin's he and his team are doing the entire build itself.
Gotcha. By the way, I have a question for John Smith. Wake up.
Yeah, I'm here.
As I was like, I got to get one question to you too. He's got, first of all, a hell of a channel. And what's your next town that you're doing your emphasis on before you come up to Central Oregon?
Well, I'm actually, because it's going to be relatively soon that I'm leaving Phoenix to travel up to Spokane, Washington, and obviously visit you guys on the way back. But what I'm going to do, and I've kind of been thinking about this because I don't want to miss opportunities, right? I think Morgan can appreciate that when you're filming and you've got all this editing to do, and you want to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck, if you will. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be traveling, and I'm going to basically document the entire trip from the minute I leave Phoenix, hop in my car, and I start to drive north, and we're going to map out small towns along the way and do just a ton of filming. And then when I get back, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into maybe 5 or 6 episodes, and so that kind of in a series, so that I go from one to the next small town, talk about it, do a lot of voiceover, that type of stuff, because it's going to be, it's, I think 21 hours up and 21 hours back, plus all the filming. So it's going to be a major project, but I want to do something that my viewers can tune in and they can see episode 1 of this, and where am I going next, episode 2, episode 3. And I'm going to break it down into smaller videos instead of doing 20-minute videos, maybe maybe 7 or 8 minute videos in a series. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I was like watching your. I was getting caught up, and I watched your last one. I couldn't believe the name of that saloon you were talking about, the Blood Bucket Saloon.
The
So
bloody
he's up
bucket.
to some small town, way up. That's up north in Arizona, right? What
Yeah,
was
that's
that
in
called?
Holbrook, Arizona. Yeah.
Anyway, but a lot of shows that you've been doing, you always have these old small gold towns, but the history is incredible. I cannot believe it.
Arizona's history is phenomenal, and I don't want to take I don't want to take too much time because this is a farming and show and everything, and I'm fascinated by everything here. But because I grew up on a farm, but that's a side conversation. But anyway, it's fascinating that I don't even know. I lost my thought process, but Arizona is a fascinating state. It's the 48th state. So we are the last state in the continental United States to become a state because DC told Arizona, you guys are far too insane for us to even consider you to be a state.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we had
Oregon.
we had the Pleasant Valley Wars out here. I mean, it put all these other little wars to shame. More people got killed. People were crazy. They were just slaughtering Native Americans, and they were killing each other, fighting over sheep and fighting over cattle. And it was just like the Hatfield McCoys couldn't hold a candle to the Pleasant Valley Wars. It was insanity. So DC said, thanks, but no thanks. Get your act together and maybe we'll talk. So that's why it took until I think it was 1914 before Arizona became a state, and they had been applying for it since like the mid 1800s, so pretty fascinating stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So
And
anyway,
Jack,
that was
Jack has a question, and the answer is yes.
what on property taxes.
Yeah,
Has anybody had an increase
by
in
over
property taxes?
$200. Yes.
Yours went up that much?
Yeah,
I haven't talked. Sure hasn't. We pay ours yearly,
and
so
the insurance. The insurance
Wow.
went up by 200 too.
Well, when
Yeah.
you put up like the Hilton equivalent of chicken coops, your property value is going to increase.
This is next. I'm not paying by hand anymore.
yeah. So Debbie's our insane chicken lady, and she's proven herself worthy this year. But I got to get on the subject a little bit. So this was motivated a little bit from Homestead Traditions, which we kind of referred to them before, especially with the breast chickens. They're very much into the is it American breast chickens.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm motivated by them by the American breast too. I think I like to do that next year, but I want to make sure and plan for it. But they brought up a video that just came out yesterday, I think it was, and they were and a lot of people have noticed that they're making changes. They reduced their pig herd to just feeders, like what Morgan's doing, and making a few changes. And I thought it'd just be a good discussion. And it's like I don't want the subject to sound like homestead bad news. It's like I think it's I just wanted to put emphasis, like a lot of people get started, just like myself. I've got this new acreage, and then so I was going crazy in different things. And Homestead Traditions were kind of talking about, things that they're involved in and stuff. And they were asking themselves the question, is this, is this non-value activity? Is this part of the business plan we had? Do I still have personal space? Am I stressed out or burned out? And so I think all of us are in different stages with our homesteads and stuff. And with Morgan, I was like, he's got a lot bigger grasp of property and a region. I sometimes get the impression that you fight that battle yourself, Morgan, where you're trying to I want to do this, but I don't want to do it, or I don't want to get too busy. You're only a one-person operation, just like me and a lot of us. And, so I want to talk about some of the battles or some of the frustrations or some of the new planning and sometimes reevaluating each year of saying, is this too much? What do I, I haven't really noticed you giving up anything, but so it seems, I feel like you're comfortable with your workload and stuff like that. But I'm sure that comes to mind a lot, especially as you're going into spring.
Oh, it definitely does. And I mean, and this is where too I think I'm a little different, right, than a just sort of traditional homestead, where there are some things that we do, I'll call it at homestead scale, making maple syrup, keeping bees, our garden. Those are really just like for us to feed us and maybe some friends and family and that sort of thing. We're not doing anything commercially, but then like the geese and the trees and the cattle all have like a commercial farm element to it as well. And so there's this sort of, call it a farmstead, like where we're not like a full on big farm, but we're in the middle there. That's how I think of the farm and what we do here. I think there is this constant battle I have, Rob, where it's like not trying to expand too much, not trying to get to a place where I can't just manage things and do most of it myself. I don't want to take on employees. I don't want to manage people. And so, keeping my scale to that level is what I do. And I think part of it has been to not increase and do too many new things each year and keep it at a pace where like I'm only adding one new thing. And so, for example, this year, the new thing is pigs. And I'm doing it as an experiment. And I'm going to say, hey, do I like what's going on here? And am I happy with this animal? And I want to keep doing this. Was this too much? Was it not? Because, I mean, look, if I'm exhausted and burnt out in August, good news is come like late September, I'm done. And I don't ever have to raise a pig again if I don't want to. And so it's keeping yourself flexible in that way. But then at the same time, I worked last year to really optimize a lot of stuff and get efficient enough where I could manage the cattle and all the birds and what I had to do there pretty easily. So I'm at the point where I'm like, well, I could maybe try doing a little bit more. But it's something that my wife and I, we always kind of talk about and assess. And like, do I scale back certain things? Do I do away with certain things? Some things like ducks, it's probably actually, if I was going to point to any enterprise on my farm right now that I'd say it probably doesn't make a ton of sense to keep doing, it would be raising ducks. But I just like ducks. And, if I'm going to have 6 ducks, having 30 ducks actually isn't that much more work relative to the way I keep them and manage them. And so I haven't scaled it back just because it's easy. I mean, if I was going to account for how much of my time gets dedicated to raising ducks each week, it's, just for ducks, maybe a half an hour, maybe an hour at the most. And so I've got it down to a point where it's like, it's not that hard to do. And so you do have this thing where it's like, yes, you can only do so much. There is only so much time in a day. And at a certain point, you will burn yourself out if you're not careful. But if you can kind of keep getting more efficient in how you do things as well, that's what makes the difference. And so sometimes that does mean scaling things back. I stopped selling duck eggs this year for hatching. So I used to sell like eggs for hatching for duck eggs, but I looked at the dollars and I looked at how much time it was taking me to fill the orders and like how that distracted me from other things. I actually stopped doing that. Now I've actually worked out a deal with a local cafe. I'm hooking them up with more duck eggs. They sell them and it works out for them. It works out for me. And that takes me like 15 minutes to deal with each week versus like, I was probably dedicating 3 or 4 hours to packing and shipping eggs, dealing with, issues in transit, like all that stuff. And so I cut that out. And so you have to look at it in terms of like activity and the number of animals that you have and the types of animals and projects that you have going. But then also pair it with like, are there certain parts of that aren't adding value and can you scale those things back? And so that's very much how I've been thinking about it. And I'm not sure I do a great job, but I'm trying to not burn myself out.
I got to laugh at one thing. I watched one of your videos that you're doing back-to-back videos with Justin Rhodes, Roots and Refuge, and yourself. Anyway, and I got the biggest kick because I always know that I know Justin Rhodes, I appreciate him, no doubt. But I know that he probably didn't look at you as a normal homesteading group. So one of his comments that he came back with you goes, oh yeah, I decided to start watching you again. I picked up on that really quick. It's like, I know why, because you're not generally what a homestead looks like, and so it didn't pique his interest as much. But you've grown on him, and so
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, Justin and we text a lot and go back and forth. You know, not so much about the homestead itself, but like the craft of making videos and like telling good stories. Like, you know, he's somebody I talk to regularly and has become a good friend just by way of kind of having that shared interest.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and actually that was a fun night to have because when you look at like each of our three channels, right? It's each one is a bit different and comes at it from a different angle, and so I think there's space in the homesteading world for kind of each approach, and it's fun to compare and contrast because I think when you think about drawing new folks in and getting more people interested in growing their own food and raising animals and taking care of the land, like doing these types of things, you know, you got to be careful that we don't just become like there's like one mold that everybody tries to fit into, and you try to create some good diversity and range of activities for people to be doing and backgrounds that they're coming from.
John, that was your grandson, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, it's one of my grandboys. Yeah.
He's a cutie. So another one, and I'm not sure if you picked up on this one, but I was watching Roots and Refuge. She did a show because she was took a little bit of heat about using the word real food, and I've never thought anything of it, but I guess there's a lot of people wordsmithed her to death and stuff trying to define what real food is and stuff. But the only thing that was frustrating with the video is she spent probably 15 minutes trying to tiptoe around all those people not saying everything right, and only had 5 minutes of addressing what she meant by what that was. And I agree, real food is and I like her because she has the fact that she's forcing you or suggesting to all of us to start reading the labels a little bit and some of these things that are in your food. And it's like and so her definition of what real food and stuff was, I thought it was actually clarified very well. But anyway, you can see that she was very uncomfortable about that video, only because she didn't want to offend anybody. But it's like, sometimes in this world, it's like, suck it up, be accountable. If you're offended, just turn the volume off for a while or something. I don't know what it is, but some of these guys, I know they get these bigger channels and they get real sensitive to making sure that their vocabulary is right or whatever. And it's like, anyway, I'm curious if you saw that video.
Yeah, no, I know exactly the video they did. I think I mean, look, maybe my take's a little differently. I think Jess did a really nice job threading the needle on that because, look, there is this dilemma that exists in that, yeah, there's a lot of crap out there, and there's a lot of things that when you look at, America and even the world as a whole, kind of what we're eating and how we're producing food. While we've never produced more food in the history of humanity than we have at this day and age, we are also, our agriculture and our food system is as fragile as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually a real problem. I think, though, at the same time, you got to recognize that all of us, everybody on this live stream, people watching, a lot of people, I don't know, come from a point of privilege, right? Where it's, I had enough money where I could buy a farm and start doing what I'm doing. And my wife and I, had the advantage of not having kids, so we could just uproot our lives and come here and do what we were doing. And that's not something that everybody has. Even now, like, I can hire people to help me build a barn. That's an advantage I have that other people don't have. And so how you present those things and how you talk about those things, recognizing that there's a variety of people who are going to be watching, coming from backgrounds, and you want to make, I mean, I know Jess feels this way, and I feel this way too. You want to make everybody feel welcome. You want to make everybody feel like they can be a part of this and they can take a step in. You have to be careful in how you frame things and how you talk about things, because I think if you're just saying, hey, if you're offended, suck it up, you're almost disregarding how they're feeling versus trying to understand where they're coming from and really saying, well, I get that. And I recognize that there's a sort of area of gray that we're operating in. I think that's the important thing. And so, Rob, I don't think it's so much that, people are just not wanting to offend people. I mean, I know that both Jess and I probably both come from this point of view of hey, how do you make as many people welcome? How do you encourage and bring more people in to grow their own food? That can't be just like, well, hey, suck it up, Buttercup, if you want to do that.
Yeah, and that's actually in our channel we're the same way. As, for example, every once in a while, I think John Smith kind of looks like, why do you keep inviting me to the show? I don't have a farm. And it's like, he's exactly the person. So we've watched John not only have a great channel, but he's thinking about it, and he's starting to think about what he can do in his area. And so um, just like with my hydroponics and stuff, I try to show people in hydroponics that you can do this in your living room. You can do this in the back room. You don't have to have a large scale like we're doing. I just want you to see how it works, and you can build it to your scale. But you can grow food in your apartment. You can do whatever. And already, I think, John, you're talking about above ground gardens. That's that's the best way to start. And by the way, I'll say it again. Arizona weather is fantastic for growing things. You have 2 seasons in there, and you'll kill it. You'll be so addicted after that. So you're not at a disadvantage at all unless it's the main summer. That's when it gets a little hot. But you've got a great place to grow, and I get excited the fact that we're trying to reach people of all sizes. All of us have maybe some people go nuts and say, well, we got 5 acres. Well, we're nothing compared to Morgan, but all of us are trying to reach people at any scale that you're at. So I'm tickled pink if I've motivated somebody in downtown Mesa, Arizona, and be able to do above ground or it's like, we're just lucky I have a little bit more space where I can show you a larger scale of it, but just look at what we do. We want, you don't have to be making your complete grocery order in your yard. But anyway, to see people think about their food one way or another, it's a nice feeling. And so I think I totally understand how Roots and Refuge and Jessica and all of them are feeling the same of trying to make sure that they're reaching people at any scale. And I think I get that impression with your channel too.
Definitely. Because I mean, that's how you build a movement, is by bringing people in and making them feel welcome and bring them into a part of it. It's a big part of it in my mind.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think part of it is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. You'd be really surprised on what you can do with just an acre, or like my place is 2.5 acres. I mean, I have 5 pigs. I lost count on chickens.
Oh,
five turkeys. And
Debbie, you're spot on. I got my start. It's funny, Rob. You asked the question earlier of what got people interested. So I got my start by growing tomatoes on my rooftop of my apartment when I lived in Brooklyn.
I have seen that.
And
that's
that,
so cool.
And it was just all these containers on top of the roof of the building, and I was able to do it. And that's how I got started. When we moved to Washington, D.C., we lived in Capitol Hill on in a row house with like a front yard that was probably about the size of this, actually smaller than this room. And I ripped up the whole lawn and put in 2 raised garden beds, and that became kind of the next progression. And as I was doing that, though, I was working a job where I was very unhappy. I was leading a life where I was really unhappy. And that got me reading and researching. And I was looking at people like Mark Shepard and like Joel Salatin, and seeing people doing things at a larger scale. And that's what motivated me to really want to get into farming and make that leap. And it was the combination of seeing people doing things that were aspirational to me, but then also being able to start and take baby steps where I was at that time in that day. And the combination of those two things are I think, critical to getting me to where I am today. And so that's why I feel like that accessibility thing is so important, and encouragement is so important, and inspiration is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. It's what's great about YouTube is to be able to go and watch and see all you guys do your different things and be able to be successful in the areas that you're in. And it's a kind of a learning as you go type of experience, right? So it gives people like myself and some other people that might not feel like we're in the right area, or we don't have enough land, or we don't have the expertise, all these types of things, but it gives us the confidence to just try it. Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's just
Good
buying,
advice.
yeah,
Great advice on there.
even if it's just buying, like a kiddie swimming pool and filling it full of dirt and growing some hot peppers or something like that, to be able to do it, to watch it, and to reap the harvest, right? And to be able to pull your own bell pepper or hot pepper, chili pepper, whatever, and add that into your recipe that night for dinner. That is the step, right? And that's what you guys do. You give us the confidence to do that. And so that's why I tune in, and that's why I like it. And that's why I'm coming up to Central Oregon to check out Ranger Rob's amazing farm up there. I can't wait to check it out.
It's
Hey, we had John Pearson over. I don't know if you ever caught that video of. I have to say, I have so many Johns or John Smith. He came out and it's like, you scared the heck out of me, John, because you knew exactly how I do my intro. It's like,
I noticed it changed its sense a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
So-
not picking that tomato.
yeah. It's like I got to put some little tomatoes out there, so I can act like I always get a cherry tomato each time, but it's wintertime. But you'll be proud to hear, John, is I did have an intro tomorrow on the show, on the new video that if you saw today's video, you can see that little Abby didn't master the art of going out the door like the other. However, tomorrow's video, you will see a full-fledged Abby shoot out the door like Belle. And it's like, I can't believe I taught her that so quick. She's awesome at it. So anyway, tomorrow's video is for you, John.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
One other thing I think that's important too, because this actually gets to the burnout part, and at least for me, this is one of the ways I deal with that burnout, and it makes a huge difference. When I can look out and look at what others are doing and see something that like sparks inspiration or an idea, that is maybe the biggest way that I personally combat burnout, where, getting back to like, why was I motivated to plant so many trees? Why was I motivated to start keeping animals or raising cattle? Like getting back to that and seeing that inspiration from others, like that does a magical thing, because sometimes you can be so busy and so head down doing the work on your place and dealing with stuff that you stop to like enjoy and see what other people are doing and learn new things and try new things. And I think that actually is like this downward spiral that does ultimately lead to burnout. But the more you can kind of bring those new ideas in and bring that inspiration in, I think it actually makes you less susceptible to burnout. At least for me personally.
I don't know how you guys feel about your channels, but I also appreciate the fact that you get kind of a family going. Like, for example, since we got an Abby, I've had 2 people come over that also get eggs and stuff from us, but they wanted to come over to see Abby. It's like golden retrievers are all over the world. It's like Abby looks like every other golden retriever, but they got to see.
She's a puppy.
But she's a puppy. So I've had actually 2 people that buy eggs from us that wanted to come over and ask, can we see, when I come over to get eggs, can I see Abby? And I get so cute. I don't realize that you're creating this environment where people are inspired that, if they can't do it, they know where to get it. We've been trying to teach people that, you've been showing me your beef on there. I was going to bring up something about your bull, but we're trying to teach people that you don't have to have a lot of property. If you want fresh beef, just go down the road. How many places, most people not too far away, probably no more than 20 miles away, can find cattle on the side of the road, or people raising cattle. And most likely a lot of them are selling them straight to people that you can do a co-op with. And like for us, we started Central Oregon grown. We're going to have grass-fed Black Angus, but it's not coming off our property at all. But we made sure it's coming from a property that's doing really good processes and regenerative um, agriculture and things like that. But I want to ask Morgan on his little bull, that new bull you have.
Macho Man.
I kind of laugh at that because I have a bull pig that started out small, and he was so cute, and he's growing up. We scratch his ears and all that stuff. Well, now, which is, we call him Sparky, he's now a year old, and Sparky's got these big, giant, sharp teeth coming out of the side of us. He's our breeder, and so the things I used to be able to do when he was just a little piggy, I can't do anymore, because if he swings his face to the side, I've got like a couple stitches in my leg, and he doesn't do it on purpose. But are you starting to feel the effects of your bull's starting to grow up a little bit, and you can't do some of the things you did at first?
Well, I don't think so. And I mean, one, he hasn't grown a crazy. He's been here. Gosh, he got here early February, so about 2 months, 3 months. And he's like settled in really well. And I have been working with him every single day that he arrived here. And what I've been working on has been, getting him just comfortable with me, which is 100% the situation now, but then also halter training him so that he's trained to know to move when I put a rope on him and lead him. And that, like, so it's almost like he's like a dairy cow, basically, at the point that he's trained, because I've been doing basically a halter training session with him every single day since like mid-February. And so that has helped a lot. And I'm doing that for when he does become a bull, like a big bull. And yeah, when he's 1,200 pounds and he has, 3-foot horns coming off the side of his head.
Those horns are scary.
I want to be able to work with him in a way that I can, just like, like some of the other cattle that I have that are a little bit more gentle. And so the reason I do all of those things is so that I'm not in a situation where it is as dangerous. I mean, you still got to respect him. You still got to recognize that testosterone is a very powerful thing, and you've got to be very careful, particularly in breeding situations. But at the same time, building that relationship's important, because if he's not handled that way, then I really am concerned with how do I manage it. So that's kind of how I think about it. It's not that I'm seeing him as a cute little thing and, hey, let me give him love, but it's much more, let me keep working with him so that I have this ongoing relationship with him and I can do what I need to do as he gets bigger. That's how I think about it a lot. I think the other thing is too,
our pigs too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing too, and I'm not sure about pigs because I just, don't have the experience, but with Highlands, they are exceptionally skilled with how they use their horns.
I know.
And so they will use them as they need them. And so making sure that you're not in a situation where they think that they can use them with you is part of the training process, really. And so that's how I keep comfort. But it's one of those things where I can never let my guard down when I'm working with them. I got to always have escape routes and how am I going to manage this or that. But at the same time, I think it's the consistency of working with them that's going to help in the long haul.
Yeah. Now we're getting to our hour, and I want to do a finishing kind of statement from anybody who wants to contribute. Staying with the other thing that I've noticed lately from a lot of homesteading channels is all of us trying to interpret what we're seeing in the reality of the world, whether it's banks or whether it's I don't want to talk political, but we know that we could go digital. We could have problems with other countries and just all that. And the biggest thing in a homesteading world or farming world or farmstead world is any of this making you reevaluate what you're doing this year? I guess that's a quick way of bringing it in. So I'll let, since we kind of bring it up a lot on our show, on other shows, Morgan, I mean, are the things that are making you like second guess, like how your grandson, how you're doing, moving forward in the future. Like, are you, when it comes to comes to money and doing transactions or anything like that, any of those areas got you kind of head on a swivel?
Not significantly, and let me explain why. And I know, and Bob, you and I have talked about this before in the past. I've been critical because I think part of when you say, hey, I hear a lot of people talking about this and worried about where things are going to go, I actually will be cynical enough to say that I think a little bit of that is less motivated by true fear versus, hey, this is a way to get people to pay attention. And so I am not a fan of that at all. And I've spoken about that before. But I think the other thing is for me, and this isn't just with financial things, it's really with most things. I try to focus on where my sphere of influence is, like in terms of what can I impact, what will impact me, and how do I manage that. And all right, let's take like a centralized digital currency, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a lot of people who have these doom and gloom views of it, and it's, oh, they're going to control you, and that's how they make us like China and all this nonsense. I don't believe that. I fundamentally don't believe that.
I'm with you. It's a bunch of crap.
You could actually make the argument for it will simplify how I make transactions, and I won't have to pay credit card fees and things to payment processors and other things like that. So either way, I don't know which way it goes. I'm not that concerned because I don't fully see it ever impacting my way of life in a significant material way. I would actually argue things with artificial intelligence are 50 times more impactful and more concerning to me than anything remotely related to digital currencies. For example, things related to artificial intelligence and automation, I think, are so much more impactful than being worried about like stuff related to like what's going to happen with banks and bank. It's such a limited thing. I mean, that I don't obsess about that. I don't do anything differently about. I've been focusing on artificial intelligence. What's that going to mean? How do I use it? How do I be careful of it? What are the risks? Like, that's something I pay a lot of attention to. But yeah, like a CDC or whatever the acronym is. Yeah, I'm not sweating it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of taking a look at it. I've been kind of telling myself it is what it is, and deal with it as it comes, and make the best of it. And the other factors I can't control, so don't lose sleep over it, I guess.
I think there's good actors and bad actors involved in all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like dynamite. They're either going to use it to blow up a mountain so that they can build a road through it, or they're going to strap it to a 12-year-old and send it into a group of people and take, so that you can use anything for good or bad. And there's always going to be evil and good in this world. And we just pray that the good prevails.
Definitely.
Yep.
Well, guys, our hour is definitely up.
I have a question for
Go
Rab.
ahead.
Where are you, Rab?
Yeah, where are you?
Are you in your driveway?
He's not in his driveway.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yes,
Well,
I would.
I'm going to tell you.
He's just upset because I didn't play his graphic.
It's time for Ranger Rob's shout outs.
Play the right one, though.
The question is, where is Reb today? Could he be in America? Could he be in another country or another state? Let's find out.
All right.
I
Where's
think
Reb
you're at
today?
home.
I am at home today.
Wow.
But I was in 4 other states earlier today, but I did make it home.
Wow.
Kind of figured because you didn't leave early and you weren't in a parking lot.
You never
Wait,
know.
all right. Now I'm going to play the guessing
I know
game. So
you
if you're in North Carolina and you were 4 other states, were they South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia or West Virginia?
No, South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, and Alabama.
Oh, right on.
Wait.
How much?
So I went, you're right. It doesn't make sense, but I went past my house up into Virginia, and I had to come back around.
Wow, that's hardcore.
No, see, that's the difference between the East and the West. Because if I was in 4 different states, it would take me a week.
Unless you were in those 4 corners, right?
Yeah, I could be there. Yeah.
Being like,
the 4 corners.
Yeah, but I'd be up there in a week anyway because I'd be devouring all the fry bread. Good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but out there you could see for 4 states as you're driving. You know, you can't see 100 yards down the road here with all the trees, but you can see. Yeah, I can see where I'm going 4 days from now. You know,
That's true. That is true.
Very true. Yep. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank very much Morgan for coming on the show. I don't know why I feel like I should be saying this, but I'm always impressed by Morgan's ability to be available to people of all different stages in this game. And we appreciate the fact that you respond to us and come on our show. We hope that we ask things that are a little bit different than what you're hearing on the other shows. And anyway, we all very much appreciate your channel. And the same thing with John Smith. You got a great channel. We really appreciate your show. And we love having you on the show because you have really good questions and contribute to us. So you're always welcome here. And of course, Morgan is too. Reb, we just don't know where he's at every time.
We still love him.
Yeah, we love him. So, but Morgan, thank you very much for joining our podcast today. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I always have fun when I come on. So yeah, no, we'll definitely have to do it again in a couple months. Definitely.
Great. Yeah. Well, I'd like to follow up probably a few months and find out what you think of growing pigs, because we all have pigs. So I'd love to see your.
Yeah, I could probably give you a full report in September. We'll see how the summer goes.
Still milking your cows?
How old are your pigs?
That's a good question. I don't exactly know. They're about 40 pounds right now. So
too young.
Yeah, I mean they're young. They're little guys or gals. I should say
2.5 months, I bet.
Yeah, they're more than 8 weeks, but yeah, I'm gonna put them probably somewhere 10, 12 weeks in that range ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, Morgan, I know it's late for you, and I know it's late for Reb, and we keep them constantly in the dark. So anyway, guys,
in the honor of the pig, that's all, folks.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being on the show tonight. If you catch the show, which most of our people do after the fact, please leave comments anyway. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we love to hear new ideas for the show. So, anyway, yeah. And if you have questions for Morgan, put them in the comments too. So anyway, guys, have a great evening, and thank you very much for being here. And hang on for a minute after I close, and so we can do some formal goodbyes. And and I got to make sure I push the right button for a change.
Graphics.
This video is made possible by Ranger Rob Poopy Bags, available in Amazon right now. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.